We're going to get started, everybody. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Sue.
Mr. Arcuri? Mr. Bova?
Here.
Mr. Brodsky?
Here.
Mr. Coyne? Mr. D'Elia?
Here.
Mark Ford?
Present.
Mitch Ford?
Present.
Mr. Mahardy?
Here.
Mr. Mutolo?
Here.
Ms. Stesney? Mr. Williams?
Here.
And Mr. Zawaya?
Here. You have in your packet the July 21 draft minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Any second? Thank you. Any discussion, corrections, deletions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Next item on our agenda, disaster recovery. Jim Mack.
Jim asked me to just give a brief introduction on this. You might recall a couple of years ago, some of you that were here on the board at the time, that there was an incident with asbestos in the building. Some work was being done on the roof, and suddenly we were told by the city that we all had to close down and evacuate the building with about a half hour's notice. So we did evacuate, and we then reconvened off-site and got all of our phones and computers and stuff switched over. We went down to Kemble Street at our maintenance facility, had our people reporting to work down there the next day, and opened up business literally within hours. Everything went fairly flawlessly. But we realized that we have other needs for disaster recovery. We've been working on that ever since. And, you know, heaven forbid there was a serious problem where the building caught fire, or, you know, something like that, where we really couldn't get in here at all and lost equipment. We're looking to make sure that we have adequate backup and off-site facilities and we can recover very quickly. So Jim and his team have been working on this quite a bit, and Thursday there was an operations committee meeting.
Yes.
And they saw this presentation and felt very strongly that the rest of the board should be aware of what we're doing so that everybody knows how we would behave in the event of some kind of a disaster and where we'd go and what we'd do. So Jim, with that, take it away.
Past 9 or 10 months, we've been meeting with local vendors, vendors out in the area, different suppliers, coming up with different scenarios for disaster recovery. Meeting with the local, especially the local vendors, it was decided for our company, our best disaster recovery site for right now would be our Kemble Street maintenance yard. So we've based this plan on that being our disaster recovery site. We've done some improvements down there, electrical, computer wiring, wireless access points. We've even set up mobile cubicles that we can wheel in for customer service into our break room, and it'd be there. It's sort of isolated from the rest of the facility. We've just completed a few server updates down there that I'll get into as we go. So here's our plan. I want to give you a quick overview of our servers here. We have a document, web server, and email server right now located in our main facility here, and I'll get to that a little bit later. That's why they're different colors. We have an accounting server. Our AMI servers are a server for our meter integration project. Customer service, laboratory information share the same server. Trackstar server is our vehicle monitoring and maintenance server. Document scanning server, we just completed a project where we took all of our old payroll registers, scanned them in, made them searchable for our HR. They're sitting there. That's just phase 1 for that. We have 2 SCADA servers, which control all our pumps and our towers and our valves and our plant. We have one sitting at the filtration plant and a duplicate one running here. They work in full fail-safe mode. We've had a couple times where we lose our communication with the plant. The one here will pick up and vice versa. So we've actually tested that under fire. We've got good results with that. Our maintenance yard server, which we just upgraded, and our engineering GIS server. Our backup devices. We have in our department a 12 terabyte network and storage unit. We have a similar one in our maintenance yard. We have one at a facility in Syracuse hosted by USA DataNet. It's in the Money building there, very secure. And a smaller one at the filtration plant because our amount of data is minuscule compared to the rest that we're using And for right now, we're using the Carbonite Cloud Services, which controls the backup to our NAS units and to the cloud, all through the one software package. So for our servers located at City Hall, and by the way, before I go on, you notice the pictures here and the logos, that's Connie, she set this up, because it would have been black and white if I did it, so she didn't want that, so.
No moving cartoons.
But you don't have anything bouncing up and down?
I wouldn't let her go that far, Bruce, but she really tried.
No cartoon characters.
So our server's located at City Hall. Back up to our NAS device here daily. Back up to our maintenance yard NAS nightly. We're backing up to Syracuse once a week right now. When we finish our network updates infrastructure, we'll be backing up there every night. And our cloud services. So we have data going in 4 different locations every single night. So hopefully we'll be able to recover no matter where we lose connectivity. We could go on and on and on with the different sites, but at what point do you say how much money do we spend here? So we feel we have pretty good locations now. Filtration plant backs up to its NAS system, comes down to our IT NAS every night, goes out to Syracuse every night, because it's not a lot of data, but it's very important data. And then out to our cloud service, our maintenance yard server, same thing, to their server, to our NAS, to Syracuse, and then to Carbonite. That's a quick overview of how we're moving the data. Now to the servers. Our document server, web server, and email server. We're in discussions right now with Microsoft. We're taking our email server, our web server, and our document server, and putting that to the cloud, Office 365. No longer hosted here, full redundancy, full backup, easily accessible from anywhere that we need it to be. Our accounting server, our AMI server, and our customer service laboratory server. Our plan next year is to take those 3 servers, put it to a virtual server here with a mirrored virtual server at our maintenance yard. Our TrackStar server, very small, basically a PC with a server license. Probably not going to virtualize that. It doesn't really play well with the virtualized server right now, so we're going to leave that as it is. Document server, same thing. Debatable where we want to go. We have to see the cost on that. But for right now, we're backing up the data. SCADA server here and SCADA server at the filtration plant will be a virtual server here and a small virtual server at our filtration plant. And that will also connect with the virtual server at the yard. So every night, we'll be imaging the data along our routes here from the filtration plant to the maintenance yard back to here. Maintenance yard server will be virtualized down there. And because of the size of the data, probably looking for our engineering GIS to be its own virtual server. There's a lot of data there. And we'll have one here and one at our maintenance yard also. So that's part of our disaster recovery, is the data and the server. So I think we have a good handle on how this is going to work. The other part of this is the phones. We have to be able to have communication with customers at all times. So we've looked at a disaster recovery here. Like I said, our yard will be our disaster recovery center. We've wired our break room for wired communications through computers with wireless. So if we decide we want to go to laptops or tablets, we have that option open. We've redone the electrical in there, and we have some rolling cubicles that we can move in and out of the building. This is going to be set up for customer service and key personnel. We've taken our meter shop, cleaned that up, redone some of the electric in there, and wired that also, so that would be a separate area from customer service, but for key personnel to work at. So to do this, we had to upgrade our internet structure. We went to, with Northland Communications, we went to a product called MPLS. Very technical. I have a definition here if anybody wants it. Basically gives us faster internet, better quality control of our internet, and more secure internet. So we've already done that. That's standing by. We have a firewall sitting at Northland Communications right now, waiting for us to deploy over there. And we're connected all the way up to the Money Building in Syracuse, because Northland has a presence in that building too. So we're covered all the way around. We've put part of it in place, and we're getting very good, solid communication between ourselves and the filtration plant. That was on an older copper telephone line, And we used to have a lot of problems with that when the storms would come through or the floods. So we've seen a noticeable improvement in that already. So when we upgrade the infrastructure of the internet, intranet also, we have to do an upgrade on our phone system. So we're going to need new routers at all of our locations. We have a cost of that, it's a little under $20,000 for the 4 locations. This is done by SPS, which is our current phone provider. And Northland is our dial tone provider and internet provider. They've worked together and they actually came up with this plan together, and they're both doing part of this. So the switches will go in at various locations here, Maintenance Yard, Northland, Syracuse. And then the other part of this is we're going to have a standby phone server that's going to sit at the maintenance yard that'll update every night from our system over here. But if we lose our communication here, that'll take over fully. So we can run our whole phone system down there with our call tree, with our customer service software, so the calls can be distributed and full backup. And that'll also give us the ability to take phones that would be on people's desks here and convert them over just with the system going down here. It'll convert them over to cell phones, so we don't have to have all of our phones locked down there. We don't have to buy all new phones, or at least new phones. Personnel that have cell phones will use them just as it's a phone on their desktop. That's all I have.
That's it. As I said, the committee thought that it'd be good for the board to be brought up to speed on where we're going with all this. And it's not done yet, obviously, but hopefully, you know, we're not going to have to enact this, but, you know, in the worst of circumstances, we'll be ready for it if we do. Also, I just wanted to take a minute to show you, introduce you rather, to 2 new faces here. They're part of Jim Mack's staff. Tracy Semino has been with us for 2 months, roughly?
Yes.
You might have known Brittany Whitney. She left to go on to greener pastures, at least I hope they are for her. Tracy came on board. Longu started with us just August 4th, came over from the county. And so he's really brand new and is kind of taking a seat that was we had on staff before Frank Duraco, who sadly passed away. But welcome Long, welcome Tracy. And you may see them from time to time. It won't be at every board meeting, but since we're doing this tonight, we thought it'd be good to have them in and let them say hi to everybody. So.
Any questions for Jim? Thank you. Thank you very much. Committee reports, Mitch?
Yeah, put the air back on. What's that?
Do you have anything else you want to report to us from operations?
I just got the figures from the road cuts that we had some questions on with the city. I need to take a look at them, and I can't really read this tonight, Alice. And
No problem.
we'll bring this back at a later date.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that was the only committee that met this month. Executive Director's report?
Yep, I have a couple items. Last week here at our offices, Dick Goodney and I and Liz DiGeronimo met with some representatives from the DEC, from both the Utica office and the Watertown office, and they had Albany Pipes on the phone. The topic of the meeting was to talk about steps that we can take early on to begin getting an application ready that can be sitting on the shelf in the event that we get a major industrial user fortunate enough to have a development at the Marcy Nano Center site or something similar someplace else that would show cause to increase our limit above the existing 32 million gallon capacity of our plant and permit. We want to be able to do that quickly, and we need to. And DEC has agreed to sit with us and iron out the early stages of a new application and determine the scope of questioning and get all that information ready and have it ready to be submitted. So I think it was a good meeting, and DEC recognizes that we may have a need for higher volumes, and they're willing to do what we need to do to facilitate a new permit for higher amounts on short order if necessary. So we'll keep you posted as that goes along. The RFP was out, as you know, for the study for water regionalization for the western side of the county. That's the grant that we got from the state to do that study. We had 3 responses were returned. They came in from the engineering firms of GHD, a team approach from O'Brien and Gear Engineers and Barton and LaJudas. They've both done a lot of work for us and elsewhere. And also CH2M Hill teaming with Shoemaker. And all of these firms have done work for us in the past and have all done a good job. We will be having a committee to sit and look at the proposals, and then we'll be meeting with the other entities that are involved in the consortium, the other townships. And our goal is to have that come back to this board for award by the September meeting. As you may recall, the money's being funneled through us, so we're in the kind of the driver's seat on this thing, and so the award will be made by this board, just as the acceptance of the grant was. So be looking for that for the September meeting. Dick Goodney and I will also be meeting next week, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks from tomorrow, with the towns of Westmoreland and Kirkland. It'll be a joint meeting. It was a meeting requested by them to talk about the possibilities of future water development within the two towns. We're going to talk about their needs, their long-term plans, and what the Water Authority might be able to do to assist them. And that's all happening now because, as you recall, we had the new 4-town permit approved that allowed us to cover the remaining portions of some of the towns that were only pre-approved in part for years and years. And so Westmoreland called up and said, now that we have a green light, we have lots of things we want to discuss. So we'll be doing that in 2 weeks, and hopefully bringing back maybe some new plans. So keep you up to date on that as well. Excuse me. Now that we have formally recognized at our last meeting by vote of the board, the Teamster Local 294 in Albany representing our employees, the business agent from that local did reach out to us and is interested in coming back in to kind of reinvigorate the negotiating process. You might recall that we've been without a contract with them for over a year now. The negotiations had reached an impasse, and we had gone to a mediator and we're ready to go to fact-finding. And then the process stopped because the representation of the group was called into question, and they eventually voted to go to a different local. They're closing the local 182 here in Utica. But we are ready to sit down with them. I anticipate in the next few weeks at least getting a feel from the new local as to how they see the negotiation and where we might go next. So we may end up sitting with you folks hopefully sooner rather than later, talking about what the nature of the negotiation might look like in the future. Last thing I want to mention is that the Village of Bridgewater is dissolving. You may have heard that in the news. You may recall, at least some of you recall, that we currently read their meters. And under a contract with the village, we went, with their money, of course, they paid for it, but we installed water meters down there that can be read remotely by a drive-by radio system. And so once a quarter, somebody from our IT department drives down there and collects the readings. It all happens very quickly. The whole trip is probably down and back. You're gone 2 hours, maybe, if that. We do their bills. Their payments come in. We wire transfer their money. And we're doing that under sort of an intermunicipal agreement. Well, with the village dissolving, the town is going to be taking over their water system. So the town has reached out to us and asked that we have a new agreement with them. Essentially, they'll be the successor to the old agreement, but they want to be named in the new one. So Ken Bobrow has drafted that up. It's going to the town for their review and vote, and I anticipate that it'll come back for us to ratify, perhaps by the September meeting, but probably by the October meeting at the latest. So another thing to be on the lookout for. We've had some discussion with our workers' comp coverage over the last 2 meetings with our current carrier, PERMA, and on the agenda is a resolution, but our attorney, who may be here, has recommended that there's some things he wanted to discuss in executive session prior to voting on that. If he's not here by then, I have a pretty good sense of what he wanted to say, so I can at least share my own thoughts on that. But before we get to that, that concludes my report, unless anybody has any questions for me. I'd be happy to take those.
I just wanted to mention the water treatment plant tour,
Oh, thank
the
you.
response, and if anyone wanted to do it individually.
I think we, Sue put out a note there, but we had only 2 people.
We only
respond.
had just 2 respond, so.
Some of us have come up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, right.
Those of you that
right.
want to go, we can do it either in a small group or individually, even
Right.
at your own convenience. So if you haven't been to the water treatment plant and you'd like to get up there, we can do it a number of ways. We can either take a group of people up, or you can work directly with Connie Schreppel, Dr. Connie Schreppel, and set up a time and go there and visit on your own, and they can take you around and give you the tour by yourself. So think it over, and if you are interested in doing that, either contact Sue and she can put you in touch with Connie, and then we can arrange a trip up there.
Do we have a date and time arranged already?
I put dates out there, I only got 2 responses, so no, nothing has been done. Nothing is in
What were the
stone.
dates?
I want to say,
I don't remember.
Last week.
it was last week, yes, it
I think it's coming
was.
down.
We need a new
It
date,
was the
Frank.
12th and the 14th, I think, so that's
Need a
long
new
gone.
date.
Yeah, I didn't, I think I didn't answer because I wasn't gonna be in town then. but-
That's fine, that's fine.
But I didn't realize it was something that we could continue, get
Yeah.
a continuance
Well,
on.
so we've talked and we thought maybe it
Anybody
would be a good
interested,
idea.
we'd love to have you up there, so, you know, just
Okay.
contact Sue and let her know, and if we get enough people,
Sounds
and we
good.
can coordinate it at the same time, that would be great, and if not, we can do them individually.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Any
Thanks, Sue.
questions for Pat? Thank you. As I blew through the committee reports, I didn't know Jim was, I know Finance Committee didn't meet, but was there anything you wanted to highlight on the financials?
Just real quickly mention, cash flow is good. Wish was a little higher. We have our GAC we have to pay out. That's about $930,000. We're almost there, but you know, it makes things a little easier. That's such a big outlay of cash, so
That's the carbon for the treatment plant, if
Yes.
you're not familiar with the term
Yeah.
GAC.
sorry about that. Revenues are good. They're on line with budget. Consumption is down a little bit. It's less than 1%. It's about 0.75% down, but we'll keep you abreast of how it continues on. We have no revenue effect right now. Hopefully, it's going to recover. But again, cash flow is good. Revenues are on pace with budget, so we're doing good.
Any questions for Jim?
I should probably also note on the same note, as part of that report, we're waiting to have a final confirmation with our bond counsel on the change in the fiscal year. There were a couple of questions that they were still researching. We believe, in the end, there's nothing that will bar us from doing that, so Jim and his department and staff have already put budget request packets out to all of our departments. We're well into the process right now of formulating a draft budget to be able to work with the board on, you know, coming up in the next 6 to 8 weeks, if not sooner, unless we hear differently from bond counsel. But I think we'll have the final answers to all that later this week.
Well, I hope we have it for our next meeting, Pat, because
Oh, yeah.
we're going to be really pushing up against the clock, which I don't want to be doing.
Oh, we'll certainly have it before the next meeting.
So if there's a problem with it, we'll advise the board and
That's right.
figure some, well, we'll just stay with what we've got.
Exactly.
Thank you. Any, I don't know if that was old business or new business, but either old business or new business? A motion to go into executive session to discuss payment of workers' compensation claims and liabilities. Second. Any further discussion regarding this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.